Daily News Live, and something that kind of sparked this interest in this video this evening is a conversation I had with one of the sisters that listens to our broadcast there, and she was asking me about how can people know about upcoming wars and when they're going to happen. She said, I know you've talked conversation I had with one of the sisters that listens to our broadcast there, and she was asking me about how can people know about upcoming wars and when they're going to happen. She said, I know you've talked about things like China invading Taiwan, that would happen possibly in the fall of this year. Another one, Russia, Putin stepping down and another person to take his place, and of course that individual would end up having a relationship with Iran. That relationship would spin off into a war against Israel being aware of this, of course, and eventually China invading the United States, roughly from some of the time estimates, late 2024, early 2025. And the question legitimately, which I have actually answered before, was how can these wars be predicted or known about already in advance? And of course, right there on your screen are two of the gentlemen that are at the not at the top, but they are at what we call level 6 and level 7, and that's the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. David Rockefeller and as they call him, Lord Rothschild, I forget his first name there. Interestingly enough, though, as you look at the image on your screen right there, right between the two of them is the pyramid of the all-seeing eye on the $1 bill. And if you'll notice closely in there, it is like a reptilian type of skin around the eye. People call it the all-seeing eye as if it's a representation of God Almighty. But in this case here, on their money, they have put their true God, a reptilian God, on there. Now, from friends that I do know that have been working in the government in some of the most secret, most highly classified parts of our government, secret agencies, etc., and worked with a multitude of presidents there, know firsthand about the connections of the whole clan, whether it be the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, whether it be Kissinger, Soros, all the list, it goes on and on and on and on. As we even see in this photo here, know your enemy. These men rule the world. And you have Jacob Rothschild, you have his son Nathaniel, you have Baron John de Rothschild, Sir Evelyn de Rothschild, David Rockefeller, Nathan Wartburg, Henry Kissinger, George Soros, Paul Volcker, Larry Summers, Lloyd Bladen, and Ben Shalom. These are, according to this particular picture, the top 12 leaders of the world. Now, I can tell you from what's been shared with me that Henry Kissinger and as well as George Soros, that they are at what they call level 4 or level 5. They are under the Rothschild clan. They take the orders from those clans. And this is people that are deep embedded in the government, that are not conspiracy theorists or anything like that. They just know how governments work and who pulls the strings. And of course, as they're doing this, these men are trying to fit what they consider to be a biblical narrative in order to justify being able to create their one world government, and it all being reigned from Jerusalem. Yeah, you got that right. All reigned from Jerusalem. But even their strings are being pulled. I was told there were 10 levels. And when you go above level 7, when you get to 8, 9, and 10, you're dealing with interdimensional beings. Well, something that I figured I would share with you as soon as I kind of give you a little bit of an idea of that. And of course, as I've been told, all these world leaders, whether it's Vladimir Putin, whether it's Xi Jinping of China, whether it's Benjamin Netanyahu, which he's no longer prime minister, or Naftali Bennett of the prime minister of Israel currently, they all are the puppets that are on the strings of those men that I just showed you. Vladimir Putin, as I was told, would step down in 2024. That's no surprise. That's been in the news since 2016 that he would actually step down. But the thing is he would step down because they want a new leader in that will press forward with the ties with Iran and attack Israel in order to make it look as if the king of the north and the Babylonian kingdom are once again coming against the Jewish people to garner sympathy. And not only sympathy for Israel, but also to kill off another 6 million quote-unquote Jews in order to fulfill Talmudic prophecy. Yeah, believe it or not, that's part of what the plan is. Now, I've been telling you now for a couple of months that China would actually invade Taiwan. And now, more and more, there are articles coming out about it. No chance U.S. can stop China invasion of Taiwan, military expert says. Now, that was about the time probably that I was speaking about that myself. But then we began to get more and more articles, like this one on July 28th of 2021. Taiwan ex-deputy defense minister investigated over China spy contacts. And there is a number of spying things going on, as there are Taiwanese officials and generals that are trying to get the Taiwanese people to go back under the rulership of Taiwan and not be pressured by the United States to be annexed as their own private nation. And we have this article here that just came out 6 days ago. China is training for war in the South China Sea. And they put it in brackets with a question mark, and to invade Taiwan. Well, more and more we're seeing those people that are putting up, showing the military buildup off the shores of Taiwan. And of course, I was told it would happen. I was told that Biden would stand down. Well, Biden already has super deep connections with China as it is, worth millions and millions of dollars for his family, just kind of like what we had over in the situation in Ukraine, where his son was heavily involved in the money-making deals there. And of course, that was why Biden went to Ukraine not too long ago, was to put pressure on Russia, make it look like that which was another one I told you about beforehand, that Biden was there and that the Ukrainian government would send troops up to the border of Crimea and the Oblast region, Donetsk region, I should say, of the eastern part of Ukraine, and make it look like they would be ready to go to war and take back certain parts of the lands that Russia had annexed after the war, the Crimean War back, I think it was 2014. Well, and I also told you that would never come to fruition. They would not go to war, even though Russia was building up its own troops on the border with Ukraine at that time. I shared with you, before it ever happened, it will never go into a full-blown out war. Russia will back down. Again, why? Because of that little group there of world leaders there that run everything. We already knew what their ball plan was, what the game plan was. And it's not to say that somebody might not pull a trigger in there somewhere, but they'll calm it down as quickly as it gets started until they are ready for certain events to take place. And here again, another Taiwanese lieutenant general speaking out, wanting the Taiwanese people to go underneath the Chinese. It's going to happen. And from what I've been told, it's going to happen this year. So then we turn our attention towards Vladimir Putin. As I said, he's going to have a replacement, and it's not going to be Medvedev, as you see here in the picture. In fact, I'll play a little portion of this video for you here, so you can see for yourself and see who that successor may very well be. Now, I don't know for sure; it's never been confirmed with me who it would actually be. I have asked, but it is interesting to see who the successor may be, and I'll share that with you now.
Любопытный сценарий опубликовало авторитетное швейцарское издание New Zürcher Zeitung, в котором не только
which not only names successor Putin, also the nearest future Russia. Surprisingly, many political scientists and experts recognize this scenario as the most likely. So according according to journalist Alexei. Oh, let me back it up there. Trying to cut that volume down enough to where I don't have the overpowering there. So let me back it up just a little bit. According to that was actually a Swiss journalist, Alexei Duyumin will become Putin's successor. However, there is nothing surprising. Even in Wikipedia has indicated that Duyumin is, of course, of the trickle of probable successors of President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, also mentioned him a few years ago in an interview with Igor Strelka as the most likely presidential candidate. And this is how the Swiss described the coming power of a new face. Sometimes there is still a feeling that they are still following the president or just games. He also plays the role that is in an Allison hat, but in 2027, Alexei Duyumin himself, the good of the Kremlin, is here more than 20 years ago. He began his career in the presidential security apparatus for many years. He accompanied Vladimir Putin and was responsible for his personal safety. That's interesting in itself. He was, as they showed the picture there, the bodyguard of President Putin, Prime Minister Putin inside of Russia. Also, you can see him here with Sergei Shoigu, who is the defense minister of Russia. And of course, Alexei Duyumin, he is also a lieutenant general in the armed forces and has also won the Russian, the famous Russian award for one of the most heroic soldiers of all times. He led the independence of Crimea, bringing the troops there to bring Crimea back underneath Russia. And so he's got quite of an interesting background. And also seen here with other heads of state there over in the Russian enclaves that surround the country there. So it does seem that he may actually be the very guy that will succeed Vladimir Putin. And there are many images you can see with him with Prime Minister Putin and others. Quite a few. In fact, right here on the sidebar, you can see a lot of them there. And then, of course, his foreign policy, his diplomatic moves already. As the Tulsa governor, Duyumin helps China's car maker Haval investing in Russia. So he's already stepping up on the world stage and has been for some time. And so the thing is, we know that that Putin will step down, and Duyumin may very well be the guy that replaces him. I've been told that it would be a regime that is already making very close ties with Iran, and of course Iran will initiate an attack against Israel in the late year of 2024. They didn't want to do it at the beginning of the year because of the new leader coming up on board. Actually, I should say President Putin, because he's president, not prime minister. I need to correct that. I keep forgetting that he went from prime minister to president. It's Medvedev that is actually the prime minister of Russia at this point. But at any rate, he is more than likely, could be a very good choice, I should say. It would be the man that would actually replace Putin. And Putin, I believe, is looking for someone that is loyal, that will replace him. But at the same time, they're looking for someone that is aggressive, that will carry out those military orders, which would include attacking Israel. And in the future as well, launching attacks, nuclear missiles against the United States, which is supposed to be coinciding with a Chinese invasion of late 2024, where the Russians will actually target our power plants in both Washington, D.C. and the New York areas there is part of the collapse of the United States. Something that is part of that New World Order, the One World Government, that is being led by these men right here and others that will take their place as time moves on. And of course, not to forget the one in the middle, the one that's really calling the shots, the one that is running or has the majority hold in that Galactic Federation. I know that sounds about as wacky as it possibly can, but it's really nothing but a Galactic Fallen Angel Federation is what they should call it. And these men have submitted themselves to Satan himself and to bring him in power on this planet in their Antichrist figure that they will end up raising up here at the final days. Listen, that's going to be that great deception, because they will come, not the Rothschild Rockefellers, but these entities, these fallen angels, will come and to appear as if they are Jesus Christ himself, if that's what it takes.